Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Flynn, and it's great to see such an excellent turnout for our webinar today, which is all about how to use Microsoft Teams live events to really keep your company culture alive in these challenging times, especially as we've got that mix of home and office-based workers. Now, it seems Peter Drucker was onto something when he said culture eats strategy for breakfast. But with most people now working remotely, the challenges of creating and maintaining that company culture are evident. So today, we're going to look at how Teams live events can genuinely help keep your team connected, happy, and absolutely supported. Now today, we'll see how easy it is to use Teams live events to organize real-time virtual gatherings or training sessions which use fully integrated video and content streaming to make the sessions highly interactive. Now, my co-presenter today is Matt Blackwell from Microsoft, who will be taking us through the key features and benefits of live events. Now, don't forget, if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A in the top right-hand side of the screen. And we'll make sure to answer as many as we can today, but most definitely follow up all of those post today's event. Now, before we dive into the Teams and live events, I'd like to look at some of the softer, people-orientated things you might want to start doing within your organization. So let me share my slides and we'll begin that part. Key to business performance isn't about having a cool office with pool tables and free beer. Because if you strip that away, all you're left with is a bunch of people. As humans, we are programmed to want to be part of a tribe and to work in a way that is acceptable to that tribe. Now, once you go remote as a result of the lockdown and beyond, you miss out on all the signals and interactions that determine your company culture. So let's look at 4 ways that might help fix this problem. Now, number 1, it's all about context. Now at Bedrock, we're always asking ourselves, how well do our people understand what's going on, what's happening and why that's happening? Now in the absence of such understanding, people are likely to think the worst and the weirdest of things. So make sure you have those weekly or monthly all hands calls to make sure everyone knows exactly what is going on and why. And follow that up with a written post, with a written summary, post it in Teams, or better still, record the call and make it available via Microsoft Stream. Number 2, build friendships. Every day in an office you can witness countless acts of friendship, from people making drinks for colleagues to casual inquiries about the weekend to handshakes and hugs. Now with home working you lose absolutely all of that. So what can you do about it? Now start with meeting up for a coffee with colleagues that live close by. Launch a company virtual fitness class, for example, which is something that we've done where for a local charity, we've set ourselves a target of walking 1 million steps in 3 months. It's been a great way of bringing everybody together. Number 3, if you want to create a vibrant remote culture, you do need a Nicky, as we call it. Now, one of the smartest things we've done as a company is to make Nicky head of culture and fun. It's important to have someone who's responsible for your company culture so that people feel happy and cared for. This doesn't have to be an official title, but you need someone who's energetic, nurturing, and dedicated to the cause. It's incredibly invaluable to have a person like Nicky, absolutely what we've found. And finally, number 4, make saying thanks a big priority for everybody within the organization. You can create a great company culture by just saying thanks. Studies show that regularly thanking people at work can lead to fewer sick days and people bringing their A game to work each day. Now, with all that said, with regards to the softer things you need to focus on, I'd like to hand over to Matt to demonstrate how we can use Teams to build a great remote working culture.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Mark. And as you obviously mentioned quite a few relevant points there when we start to look at the company culture and how to maintain that company culture in what is quite a challenging landscape at the moment. So I will quickly just share my screen. Hopefully everybody's got that now. Perfect. So before we kind of get into the sort of technical elements of a live event, I wanted to just start by talking a little bit around actually when would you use a live event? What is a live event? Because we get a lot of users of Microsoft Teams now where they are very much in the kind of swing of the day-to-day one-on-one messaging, maybe, you know, one to a few. But actually, live events are very quickly becoming one of the big ways that companies are maintaining that company culture. So to give you an idea of a couple of ways that businesses are using live events to their advantages, Mark has already mentioned one around something like an all hands event. Now, typically those all hands events could be once a month, they could be ad hoc, wherever they might be. But you will usually, with those events, you will get quite a large number of people attending those, depending on the size of your business. That could be 70, 80, 90 people upwards. Live events are really optimized for those types of sessions. We're actually getting quite a few users of Microsoft Teams now also running their own board meetings through live events because of the features that come with that. So really what I wanted to talk to you today about was actually when would you use a live event over a typical kind of call. But what I also want to spend some time doing on today's webinar is how you can use some of the features within Teams to actually maintain that company culture. So obviously, hopefully all of you have seen my fairly funky background. I will kind of talk you through how to actually set that up, but why that's important to maintain that company culture as well. So first and foremost, when we start to look at setting up a live event, most people don't come across these very often, purely on the basis that if you're like me, you will typically set up any sort of meeting or any calendar invite through your Outlook. A live event can only be set up through Teams, and that's why a lot of people will actually typically miss that ability. So first and foremost, within your own Teams tenant, providing you've got live events set up and providing they are as part of your license, they will actually be available through the drop-down menu up here. So it's quite easy for a lot of users to miss that ability to schedule a live event. But if we click into this, what a live event really does is, in the same way that a lot of you are attending this webinar today, you don't have the ability to speak, you don't have the ability to share your camera. So for something like an all hands meeting, if you've got 60, 70, 80 people, you don't necessarily want the headache that comes with having to ask people to mute themselves. We're all working from home. If somebody's got a washing machine, running in the background, you don't want that kind of management. So what a live event really does is it allows people to still interact through the Q&A function, but it just makes that dialogue very sort of one way, so that if there's a key message that's delivered, nobody's missing it through having to mute themselves or that type of situation. So when we click into that live event, let's give this a bit of a description, an all hands meeting. Now, what's really crucial when you're setting up these live events is that you have a good prior understanding of who do you want to be able to speak in that session and who do you want to be able to present. Now, there are two roles that are assigned for a live event. You have a producer and you have a presenter. Now, the main difference between those roles is the producer has the ability to stop and to start that session. It's quite a key role, because the one thing I've been on many of these sessions where people have started the session live and then quickly thought, something's gone wrong, I have to stop it. Now, in actual fact, with a live event, once you stop the session, that's it, you can't restart it. So just a little bit of something to note there for any of you looking to use these. But what you can start to do is when you start to add in people, you might want to add Alex as just simply a presenter. You only want to give that ability to stop and start the meeting to Megan, but you want Alex to be able to present, you want him to be able to share his screen, and you want to be able to speak. That's absolutely fine. The rest of the session is pretty much as you would have it normally. Now, the location, what you can do is if you have, let's say, somewhere like a conference room that's optimized for conference abilities, you can add that in as your location if you like. The rest of that then is fairly typical in terms of the times, all of that good stuff. Now, the one thing about live events is there are some really good resources available to users of live events, and this is why a lot of users are starting to use it for things like boardrooms. Now, shortly, I will talk you through some of the kind of back-end policies that are very, very easy to implement, but also very easy to overlook. And that's where sometimes, as you can see here, the ability to make this event public is actually grayed out. Now, it's very important when you're starting to use live events that it's optimized, it's all set up as you would need it. So in this instance, if I had a live event where I had external people, as we have here, if that's not great, if that's not made available, only people in my own organization can attend it. And that's where at Microsoft we very much lean on experts in this field, like like Bedrock, to be able to walk you through those policies and make sure that it's optimized for your own organization. So when we start to look at the resources that are available, we have the ability to actually make this recording automatically available to producers and presenters. That's automatically ticked. What we can also do is, if we wanted, for example, to make this recording available to any attendees, so what you might have is an all hands meeting where maybe a large proportion of your workforce are off on holiday, can't attend the meeting, not a problem. What you can do is you can make that recording available and send it out automatically after the call to all attendees. Now, what's coming very, very soon is the ability to actually have live captions as part of a live event. So live captions will actually also have translation in up to 6 languages. I believe they are fairly standard in terms of French, German, Italian, but that will be coming very soon, where you can actually turn on live captions. And I have to say, I've used it with a very broad range of broad Scottish accents, Irish accents. It's very, very good, I have to say. That will be coming soon. What you also have then is your attendee engagement report. So attendee engagement report will tell you who's attended the session, maybe have they dialed in from a phone, have they actually been physically at a laptop, that type of information. But again, it allows you to kind of track what proportion of my workforce have I been able to actually capture as part of that session. So that, again, you may note there's a particular business function that haven't been able to attend it. Very good for that. Finally, what you will also have is a Q&A ability. So in the same way as everybody on the call now they can submit a question, they can have the answer to that. All of that will be tracked through the Q&A function. Now, typically, this is very, very good for something like a board meeting where everything has to be minuted, everything has to be presented, what was discussed during that session. The Q&A will actually allow you to download that at the end of the session and quickly just view what questions were asked, what do we need to minute. So there's quite a few very good resources that are available here as part of a live event. And what you really will typically do is once you schedule in that live event, as I'll do here, one thing to note is when you've actually scheduled that in, don't simply forward that meeting to everybody in your business or everybody in your company, because what that will do is everybody will join that meeting as a presenter. That means everybody has the ability to share their screen, everybody has the ability to talk. It removes the need for that live event. What you really should do is to actually copy this attendee link up here, paste that into an email invite. Everybody then joins as an attendee and it's all managed properly. But we are massively seeing live events as being really underutilized when it comes to mass kind of communications and keeping that kind of company culture alive. So I really wanted to talk about that today and just really guide people on how to set those up and best practice around it. Now, when we start to look at some of the basic policies that you have in place here, some very basic policies around live event policies and live event settings. Now, what you have here is a default policy, which is organization wide, i.e. what can everybody in the organization do, what can't they do? So as an example, am I going to allow everybody in the organization to actually schedule in a live meeting? What you might do, and I've seen a lot of end users do this, is they will turn that off as organizational wide, but they will then set up a specific policy for specific people. So you might want, as Mark mentioned earlier, you want a Nikki in your organization. Nikki wants to be the only one that can actually schedule in these live events so that you're not having live events happening left, right, and center. Very, very simple to be able to do that. Do you want transcription for the attendees? I.e., do you want the ability to actually translate what I'm saying or have inline translation? So you can switch that off to basically say, actually, I don't want everybody in the organization to be able to schedule in, but what I do want to add in, I want to add in a specific policy for specific people. So if we call that test, yes, I want scheduling to be done on this specific policy. What you can then do is you can add in manage users. So you can add in people into that group later. So you actually limit the amount of people that are able to actually schedule in that live event. Equally, when we start to look at settings, for example, the actual recording of a live event will be made available automatically when you schedule it. That will be made automatically available through Microsoft Stream. In actual fact, you might want to use a third-party distribution provider. Typically, there are two that are available through Hive and Collective that you may want to use to distribute those. So the policies around live events are very, very straightforward, very easy to implement. And what I did want to quickly just show you is the view that you will get, because everybody on the call today on this webinar will only be able to see the screen that I am sharing. Now, when you actually join as a producer or a presenter, there are a few differences around what you're able to see, i.e. on the right hand side, this is what's actually being presented live. On the left hand side is potentially any information that you want to queue up to schedule. So as a producer, I have ability, the big red button down here, as I call it, to end that session whenever I see fit. As a presenter, all I would have is the view around what I'm presenting, what people are seeing on screen. So just to kind of give you some information around what you typically will see during a live event. So hopefully that gives everybody a good sort of feeling around live events, when you would use them, when you would typically schedule them in over just a typical dialing call. Everybody has the ability to speak. Now, what I did want to just kind of touch on today as well is a little bit around video usage, because I think everybody is now in the mindset of using Teams as a messaging function, one-to-one. Most people of Teams have got kind of very comfortable with that. But what we've quickly seen since the start of COVID is video usage actually went on average between 3 and 5% pre-COVID, how many calls would be actually implementing video. That actually jumped to just over 90% once COVID hit, because businesses are very, very keen to keep that face-to-face interaction. Now, Teams really has a variety of ways for you to maintain and take that company culture and apply it to a virtual, a virtual setting. So some interesting examples, like, for example, the ability to change your background. So I have my own background set up here. If I just quickly stop sharing my screen, you can start to get a little bit more creative with how you have your backgrounds. So if I was to put something like this, an example here, and we genuinely do see a lot of businesses using this type of background where they will have something like a pub, for something like a pub quiz on a Friday. It just helps to maintain that culture. Equally, if we look at something like a Microsoft background here, a lot of businesses we have actually seen take photos of their office environments and actually have that as a backdrop. And the way that you would do that is very, very straightforward. So you have the three little ellipses on your control bar. You won't be able to see that now because you're an attendee. All you would do is you can take a stock image off the internet, that's absolutely fine, upload it as a JPEG, and you would add that in as a custom background. Very, very straightforward, very, very easy. Now, equally, Microsoft has set up a few kind of ready, set, to go backgrounds, such as something like an education. So if you're dealing with a lot with, we see a lot of users now using Teams for education, for classroom sessions. Again, very much just helps to get into that mindset of using these types of backdrops. Now, equally, you have some very basic backdrops, such as the ability to just blur your background. So blur in the background still kind of gives me that sort of home vibe, but it might be if you've got a whiteboard in the background with a lot of information on it you don't want people seeing, just blurs it. And I have to say, frames my face very, very well, works very, very well. Now, there's other abilities that Microsoft have introduced into video calls more recently, such as the ability to raise your hand. Now, this has been called for a lot over the last few months, where we've all been in that situation on a video call where you have somebody that likes to speak, likes to get the message across. You have something you really want to get, but you don't want to necessarily interrupt. The raise your hand feature can be put in at any moment on a call, and this is on a normal call rather than a live event, and it just allows a bit more moderation of that call. So you raise your hand, whoever is maybe running that session will move over. Yes, you have a question, you lower your hand. It just allows that kind of company culture to be maintained, because when you're in a physical environment around something like a boardroom, then you will see people being able to actually, I want to interact at this point. Not always the case when we're running meetings virtually. Equally, what we also have is the ability to actually have something, a whiteboard. So if I'm going to have, for example, I'm going to share my window and I have a whiteboard capability. I can't do that here, but what I will show you is in the kind of demo tenant, I'll show you that whiteboarding capability. So if I quickly just call somebody. Unfortunately, because it's a demo tenant, it won't allow me to do that. But what you will actually allow you to do is to actually create a virtual whiteboard. And this is relevant for a lot of technical businesses where they do, things like infrastructure. I've been in a lot of businesses where they will whiteboard those ideas. A virtual whiteboard is very, very good for, again, maintaining that sort of company culture. Equally as well, what you've got is if you have somebody within a team site, for example, so you might have, we've talked about this in previous sessions, you might have a particular project set up in a team site where you have multiple people, external and internal. You might have 20 or 30 people. Just one push of a button up here, the Meet Now function, it will video call everybody instantly that is in that team site. So the Meet Now function up here is very, very good for, again, not having to go over everything, actually when are you available? Just one push of a button, it will video call everybody immediately within that project. So it might be, again, it's a key deadline that's been hit. Actually, how can we get everybody together very quickly on that? The other point just I wanted to mention as well is at the moment, Microsoft actually supports, or Teams supports, a 3x3 grid setup. What that means is I can have up to 9 people on a grid with their cameras on. That will very, very soon become 7x7. So 49 people actually I'll be able to see 49 people, because again, what we are typically seeing is 3x3 is great, but I maybe have 20 people in my team and I'd really like to see all of them at once. So 7x7 should be coming in, I believe, midway through next month. So definitely keep an eye on that. And the final point that I just wanted to mention around the video element is Microsoft have actually implemented more recently the ability to control a screen. So if I'm sharing a screen and I'm sharing something like an Excel document, a Word document, or a PowerPoint, I have the ability to request control. Now, when I say request control, that's not just the ability to click on things. It's actually the ability, for example, in an Excel spreadsheet, to click on a cell, actually show people, I'm really struggling with how to do this formula. No problem. Let me take control, and I will actually be able to put that formula in the cell for you and give you back control. It just really does help to maintain that company culture and to really take the office environment and apply it to a virtual environment. So that's all from myself for today. Hopefully that's been beneficial for everybody and will help people to really use the benefits and the features within Microsoft Teams, whether it be from a live event or a video call. And with that, I'll hand back over to Mark.
Mark, that's excellent. So let's start bringing the webinar to a conclusion by saying just a few words about Bedrock. Now, we exist to help our clients become the best they possibly can by using technology in smart ways, providing a full range of IT and cloud services to help you run all or part of your business. Now, we believe the current IT outsourcing market or managed service provider, whatever you might call them, is failing the market in general on three key levels. One, they don't understand your business and how you use technology. They're only interested in providing a generic service. Two, they're not interested in helping you maximize your spend on IT. They simply see you as a monthly paycheck. And finally, number three, they don't understand your business and cannot advise you on how IT can be a strategic asset to your business to help you deliver on your goals. So how are we different? In summary, we believe it's all about getting smarter, working on the premise that what gets measured actually gets done. For example, providing the dashboards that measure the effectiveness of your IT spend, the security of your business, or the productivity of your people. Take, for example, the productivity of your people. Identifying where the hotspots of Teams usage is, which teams are using video most, so you can start asking what value is your organization getting from Teams and which areas are you seeing people adopting best practice that you can start using as case studies and references across the rest of your organization. Let's move on to the next slide, and really is a call to action. So this is an example of the strategic help that we can provide. As a result of COVID-19, the current IT strategy, many organizations just isn't fit for purpose. The question is, can you take advantage of your COVID-19 experience of the last 6 months and become a successful, thriving, hybrid or 100% remote business? Or are you just going to carry on muddling through and wasting a lot of time and money on your side? Now, the Bedrock 365 assessment will help you determine what your post-COVID Microsoft 365 centric IT strategy should look like so you can thrive as a hybrid or 100% remote organization. This will be run, I would say, it's by our interim IT director level service, a set of people who will get familiar with your setup, what you'd like to achieve really with regards to IT across your business. They will look for opportunities for immediate quick wins, help you implement them if there's the opportunity to do so, and develop a longer term 6-12 month roadmap of projects and activities, stuff that needs to get done. Now, this strategic assessment will help you cut through all the noise and distraction and frustration you currently feel, helping you quickly identify what your IT should look like to support your business as best it possibly can. Now, all of that just costs you £4,950. If this is of interest, please get in contact. We'd love to work with you. Now, finally, let's bring up this last slide. If you're not ready to make that step forward in investing in terms of what that post-COVID IT strategy should look like, there's an opportunity to continue to feed your brain. Now, in our autumn series of webinars, very much like today, 30-minute webinars, we're going to be running through there's two key strands. Strand one is very much user orientated, which, for example, we've got a webinar during the autumn series, which looks taking a Teams user, so a user, an end user, from a beginner to a real ninja in terms of taking full advantage of Teams as an end user. We're also running a series of webinars which looks at the recent launches Microsoft made at their Ignite conference, looking at the improvements they made in meetings, and there's substantial ones there, so please attend that one, and that's on the 3rd of November. We're also looking at how you can use their enhancements and developments around meeting rooms and Teams rooms, which really brings together and delivers a more collaborative experience for those people who are remote and those people that might still be office-based. And we run those what's new in Microsoft Teams on a monthly basis. And please go to our website and check those events out. So that's it. Hopefully you've got a good insight to how live events can help you maintain your company culture as you work in this new hybrid world. And just leaves me to say, please look after yourself, stay well, and look forward to seeing you on one of our future webinars. Cheerio. Bye-bye.